Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology, doing another tutorial in our series of tutorials for modeling jewelry with Rhino. Uh, this is tutorials for JD237, our advanced Rhino modeling class, and this is the Maurice ring, continuing on from where we left off in the last tutorial. Okay, I have a true confession to make. I made a mistake um, before. Before you panic, relax, it's okay. It actually works in our favor. I don't know if any of you caught the mistake before, but what I did was when I flowed my initial piece, right here, I've already moved it down. I was exploring what mistake I had made, so I can borrow this as well. I realized this right after I finished the last tutorial. If you look at the drawing, where I originally surfaced this is on top of the flow curve. It's on top of the flow surface, which means instead of going underneath the surface like it's supposed to, it went on top, which makes it much higher in elevation than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be down here. Okay? It happens to me too, guys. I get modeling along, especially as I'm talking, and I don't pay enough attention, and I made a mistake. But in our case, it's going to work in our favor because as this flows underneath here in the correct place, and I've already moved it down to show you how that's done, I'll move it back up. This is where it started at. And to move it down into position, I can simply grab it, move it from a midpoint or a quad, and then catch the intersection straight down. You can check it in the top view, make sure it's still lined up properly. Check it in the front view, you'll see it is below that flow curve and therefore below the flow surface. That's in the proper position. Okay, so I'm going to reflow it. Put that back into storage. Using my flow kit. I may as well attach history. I'm not sure I'll need it, but I may as well. And that puts it in the proper location. Put the original back into storage, turn off the flow kit, and you can compare it. You can see how much lower it is and how much better it fits in with the shank. Now this is important because one of the things we were struggling with was that as we were looking at this, we realized that compared to Maurice's ring, which I will pull back up again, when compared with Maurice's ring, we weren't getting enough of a taper. And this has a much more rounded, tucked feeling than this does. And I was a little concerned about that. But this has more of that feeling than this does. This was actually feeling quite straight by comparison. And because it's pulled under the surface, it is actually more accurate to what our drawing was and gives us a little tighter feeling. So it works in our favor. We're okay. No loss in time. And there shouldn't be any loss on your side either. I do need to fillet these edges. 1.5 millimeters. Not 1.52. 1.5. I know. Broke history. This is likely not to be my finished surfacing. I may decide to do something nicer there. Although that looks pretty good. I'm going to look at it from the front view and check it. Make sure that fillet doesn't run into the finger bore. It doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the same layer as the shank. So there's my shank in my center. Now what we need to work on is these collets. And once again, I'm doing this as I talk, so I'm thinking as I'm going. There are a number of ways to approach this. When you're not sure, make a maquette. By the way, I can delete that now. Go ahead and save this file out so we don't lose it. We don't lose the previous one. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make a maquette. This flow kit is no longer necessary. I'm going to group it, put it in storage. I'm always trying to keep as many layers open for me to use as possible when I'm working. Okay, that's about as many as I can get. So I'm going to do a simple extrusion. Remember we talked about maquette surfacing techniques last semester. Simple extrusions are a great maquette technique. I'm going to make it solid, S-enter for solid. And I'm just going to click somewhere, because making the surface is not a good point to adjust it. I do need to make it narrower. I'm going to mirror it over with history just so I can have two of them to look at. Get rid of that blue line drawing. Well, first thing I want to do is I want to see how that compares to Maurice's drawing. Look how narrow this is here. Look how wide that is. I would say that's a no. I would say that that is not cooperating. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to rotate it. Now, this I spent a lot of time in the drawing trying to get right. Now that I'm going to rotate it, it's going to throw most everything off, and I'm okay with that. But I would like to kind of know what a common center point is. So when I rotate this, I don't do something crazy. Easiest way to get that is going to be to draw a curve, a line, curve. I'm going to activate my front C-plane because I want it to go flat on that C-plane when I draw it. I'm going to draw it midpoint, object snap with project. Grab the midpoint of the surface there. That line is now running right down the middle. Okay? I'm going to mirror it, and I'm going to fillet it. What I'm doing is I am establishing a center to rotate these from. If I rotate them from the center of the ring, it's going to be a very different rotation than from here. Back into my front view now. Grab this and do my rotation. And snap. And what I'm trying to get is something similar to what I have in Maurice's drawing. That was too far. That's about right. Okay. It was important to establish that because I also need to establish now what this thickness right here from here to here is. And if it was farther back, then the taper would be different. I want to look at that one more time. Excuse me. I think that's true to Maurice's design, pretty much, but I think it's not very attractive. I'm going to let it rotate out just a little bit more. I think that's better. Because from the straight on top, it's not as pinched. 3/4 view, it's a little more expanded, but I think that's going to work. I am getting a pretty nice tuck in here. I think I want more. So before I do anything with the cleats, I'm going to come back in and modify the center. Before I do that, I'm going to copy, paste, Control-C, Control-V, change layer, Control-D. Put a copy in storage, because I'm about to transform this, and I may want the original back at some point. I no longer need the blue line drawing. This diagonal that I had plotted at one point, I'm not going to need that anymore either. That was to determine the slope on the side of that. What I do want, though, is I want a finger bore. I want to see what it looks like on the finger as I make these adjustments. So I'm going to just do a simple extrusion. Solid, yes. It's a really horrible color. That's going to drive me crazy. I'm sensitive to such things, so it's going to go on to white. I'm much more comfortable with that. Okay, so now I can see what it looks like on the finger. I'm going to assign a cage edit to this. Tools, options, transform, cage editing, cage edit. We never want to do the create cage, just go to cage edit. When you go to cage edit, it's going to ask you to select the control object, line, rectangle, box, and we want bounding box. It's going to ask you C-plane, world, 3-point. Now this is important. If you have something on a strange angle and you need to use a sophisticated C-plane, then you would set that to C-plane. But we're okay with the coordinates of world right now, so we'll just say stick with world. So if you hit enter, guys, if you accept what's in these closed brackets here, if you hit enter, you've accepted it. Okay, here comes the important part. How many points and where they're going to be. X, remember guys, always that X is the direction in red. Y is the direction in green. Z you can't see, but it's blue. So we want the X point count because we want to change how this thing is shaped at the end. Okay? I want to have an odd number in both directions because I want to have a center line, odd number of points. Give me a center here and a center here. And I want 7, I think, to give me good control. So 7, enter. Hang on. Oh, I hit 4 accidentally, sorry. 7. 7 in Y. Z, 5 is fine. It's not going to, 4 is fine. It's not going to matter. 3rd degree is fine. Enter. Edit to region. You can do global, local, other. We're not going to get that involved with this command today, so just accept global. And now we have a box. If I remove the ring bore, you can see that it completely encases our center. What's important, guys, is to know what you want to change and what you don't. It's not critical in our instance right now because I've been careful in how I've approached this. So if I change the curvature here, it's not going to matter because I have a lot of spare material. But if I didn't, if it was important to me, it would be really important that I did not scale this thing in this direction. Because if I smush it in from here and here, this is going to change. And that could be disastrous. Okay? But I can distort it any way I want to from here. I can pinch it, I can stretch it, I can do whatever I want in this direction because that will not affect this opening. Like I said, I'm careful when I strategize to leave myself as much free room as possible, so I don't get modeled into a corner. But that's important to understand. Other thing I want to make sure of is I don't want to disrupt the spacing between these. Right now I have 3 equal flutes. Okay? I don't want to change that. If I come in here and I grab only part of a row of points, I can mess with that, which I don't want to do. I'll show you an example. If I come in here and I grab these points and I move, I can change the relationship here, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to be careful to pick full rows of points, entire sections, and be very thoughtful and considered as I do this so that I don't create something I don't want. And I'm going to watch as I go to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, now I can bring back first I'm going to lock my pink layer. The cage editing box will work whether the layer it's on is the material, the geometry it's related to is locked or not. It'll still update just fine. And I don't want to be clicking on these things accidentally. I want to bring back my blocks. I want to bring back my ring bore. I don't want to select any of those either, so I will lock them. Can't select any of that. All I can select are points, and that's what I want. I just want to select points. So I have 2 ways of approaching this. I can try tapering it here, or I can try tapering the whole thing from the other direction. I am going to try and tuck it in on the sides. That's actually pretty good. I don't have to do much. I'm going to grab these 3 rows of points and these points as well. Symmetrical. That's why I have the center line. Going to use my gumball. And I'm going to scale them by grabbing the block just a little bit. And I'm going to look at that. Look at that. See how it changed the end here? I don't want that. I do not want that end to change. What that tells me, guys, is that I have too few points. If what I'm pulling here is going to affect here, which it will because it's 3rd degree curvature, it affects 2 points away. It's going to affect my center line. It's not giving me points right where I want it. I'm going to stop, back out. I hit escape twice to get rid of the points, but I could hit F11 as well. I'm going to grab that box and throw it away. Simple as that. And unlock my layer, grab this again, cage editing, cage edit, bounding box, world, X points. I want X points in the red direction. I want 9. I might want 11. I'll go with 11. Remember, I want that odd number, so I have a center line. That's better. Now I'll grab these 4. Since I want to grab all of the points, guys, I want to be careful. I don't want to grab it like this. And actually, that worked. You want to make sure that you get all the way through the block for this kind of editing. So I'll usually rotate it up to get a pretty good top view, or pretty good front view, whichever view I need to get what I want. Remember, I'm holding down Shift key as I select, so it doesn't deselect over here. Take a good look at my points. And see, that did not change the center. I'll undo. See how that stayed the same? There's your curve math, guys, right there. Making sure what does and doesn't change. 3rd degree curvature on this bounding box. This cage made sure that it would affect things, that the area of influence stops 2 points away. leaving that one intact. It's giving me kind of a hard angle here, which I don't see in Maurice's piece. So I'm going to undo that. And instead, I'm going to take one row of points out on each side. Hold down Control, drag. Hold down Control, drag. Undo, redo. I think that is more what I want. I'm going to take out the next row of points. See how it's getting hard to see them over here? I'll do whatever I have to rotate this so I'm looking straight down on those points. Control, drag. Control, drag. Leaving one row of points or one extra point selected can ruin everything, so you have to be careful here. That won't have much of an effect. See it right there? But it is keeping a smooth sort of taper in, which I want. I think that's good. He's got this really big belly here that I am trying to get. I'm going to taper that a little bit more. See, when you get a strange little sweep like this, technically that shouldn't affect my model, but it bothers me. So I'm going to take out this row of points, take out this row of points. And just scale that row in so I have a nice curve here. It didn't affect what you see here at all, but likely if I remove the orange so you can see, it did. No, it won't let me do it, so never mind. So I'm going to come back now. See this row right here? I want that row of points. See, I got some things I didn't want. I've got to rotate my view. I'll go wireframe if I have to. I want this row. Selection is everything in control point editing. I want to make sure I get the same thing. I have this the third row. So down here on the bottom, I want the third row. 1, 2, 3. Shift key so I can add to selection. There. See how this goes? There's a bit of a bump here. By taking that out, I tapered that a little bit more. Turning off the points for a minute. I can actually turn off the layer that has the box on it if I want to. I think that's a respectable version of what Maurice has. I can throw away that box if I want to. I could also store it. Believe it or not, I can put it in a storage layer. And as long as I don't do anything dramatic to this, it will still control it. If I want to come back and make changes. So I'm happy with this. This is too much of a step here. So I'm going to non-uniform scale it. I could use my, I don't want to use my gumball. I don't want to encourage you, but I'm going to use my gumball because it's easy right now. Okay. The reason it did that is I grabbed the wrong one. Remember, there's history attached, and this is the parent. That's the child. It's probably a little too much. No, I don't think so, actually. That may actually still not be enough. I got to make sure I look right in here and see what I'm getting. turn off gumball now. Okay, that's a reasonably good blank. In 3 dimensions, I feel like this thing sits up kind of high. So I'm going to move it down a little bit, because that's going to make it, because look at what I have over here. I have this huge ledge, which I don't really like. And we've been struggling with that huge ledge all along. If I can move this down, I can't move it a lot, guys. I'm going to move it with a near snap and just slide it along this original curve I made. Okay, I can't do more than that. That's the best I can do. Okay. That'll do. Now my question is, now I have a maquette that shows me the blocks, shows me where I want them, shows me they're going to work. Now I have to decide how I want to surface this thing. And I have some options. But keeping with our theme, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a flow surface. Treat these as a flow, like I've been doing everything else. And to do that, I need to get myself a nice shape along the top of this that follows this. And to get that, I'm going to take my purple and orange, and I'm going to do an intersect command. It's going to give me an intersection curve. I can turn this off, and I can turn off the ring bore now. So that's the shape that I want to duplicate kind of out here on the edge. I would like to be able to draw this on this surface as a C-plane, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to set the C-plane to that surface. That makes my life a little easier. I'm going to explode this. I wonder how many curves I'll get. 8. That's not bad. I know that the one edge is going to be right here. I'm going to join those together. I'm going to offset it. Since I've assigned the C-plane that it's sitting on here, I'll be able to do that quite easily. Through point. Something like that. Going to grab me an isocurve. What I'm trying to see is where this started to curve. I'm going to duplicate a border here and here. I want another isocurve to show me kind of where I'm going to toggle T-enter, where the end of this line is. It's there. Now there is a very slight taper here, remember? I might want to keep that. No, in fact, I know I want to keep it. So I'm going to offset this curve with its taper. And I'm going to come over here. I'll get really close to the edge. I won't quite hit the edge, but I'll get close. Reason I'm doing that, getting close and not hitting the edge, is that, I just turned off that block, is that when I do what my next step is, I'm going to blend between here and here. And because there's a slight outward angle here, it's going to want to extend beyond that surface. And that's kind of where I want it to. I don't want it to go wider than that. It's not a big deal, but I can control it, so why not? I'm going to split this with that curve, and I'm going to do a blend curve, adjustable, between here and here. Okay? But before I do, I'm going to record history. If I hold down the Shift key, these will pull symmetrically. And what I'm trying to do is get something that works nicely with this. I know it won't be the same because I have a wider distance here than I have on top, which is fine. Now I'm not going to hold the Shift key. I'm going to let each side adjust a little bit independently. I think that's pretty good. Now what I want to know is if I move this to the side, well, nope, the blend curve didn't follow me. Okay. That's good. I can delete that now. I can delete this now. I can mirror this over. Because I set the C-plane to that surface, the 0 point for my mirroring is right there. I could have also used mid or quad as my origin point. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and join these together. This, I'm going to want to go all the way down the length of that block. So I'm going to duplicate an edge again. I threw it away just now. I'm just getting it back. And just do a fillet. And there's my curve. Can you see how I can make a nice flow surface now out of that I can flow geometry that I designed flat to go up on top of? And that's the goal. Now my concern is I need to have the same thing on the other side. Pretty much. That's more of a challenge. Go back to top C-plane. But I can do it. Extract isocurve. Toggle, I want a vertical. I want it in this direction. Where that curve ends is still there. Where that curve ends is still there. I would like to be able to carry this straight through as much as I can. I'm going to take this line we drew a while ago to create that center point. I never threw it away. Front C-plane, because it's become an important curve for controlling the transforms on these boxes. And that's going to prove useful right now. I'm going to extrude it. And I'm going to set a C-plane to it. Oh, except for it's no longer in the middle of those boxes. Did I not? Okay, I didn't. So this doesn't confuse me anymore. I'm going to group these together and put them in storage curves and replace them with better lines. Same idea we did before. Straight line, mid snap, project, mid. Sorry. Mid to mid. That should be nice and centered. That's what I want. Mirror it over. Go ahead and do a fillet to bring them together. So that's the new revised version. I'll go ahead and join them together. Actually, I don't want them joined together. So I'm going to take this curve, which is now a more proper angle for what I want to do, and extrude. I'm going to set a C-plane to this because I want to project this curve through to that surface. If I set the C-plane to this surface, it'll project perpendicular. It'll come too high. If I set it to this surface, it'll come too low. So I've made a surface halfway in between them, and hopefully that'll give me a reasonable result. I do need to extract this surface off the back. And you'll see it took that one off because there's history attached to these two. That's all right. I'm going to project the curve onto the surface. Right here. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard in Windows. Control C. So I can now undo, and then Control Paste, bring it back in. That way I don't lose the surface on the back. And you know what? That's a nice job. I don't have to do anything else. That worked perfectly. I don't need those. I don't need this. I no longer need any of these. Now, I don't really need that block anymore, but I'm going to keep it. Turn it off. This is going to be my target surface. I'm seeing some interesting things there, but I guess it's okay. Surface, loft. Look at that. Look how crazy that is. Okay. I can go in here into these settings and try and play with it. It's not changing anything, but I don't need to do that. I'm going to make it a bi-rail sweep instead, because the bi-rail sweep will give me control of cross sections at the end. And that should work fine. Much better. I need to know if that's poly surface first off. Cannot explode single surfaces, so it's not. Reason I had to check that is that both of these are poly curves. If I explode that curve, it's 7 pieces. So Rhino very easily could have made this a 7-piece surface. I needed to know that, because the next step is to rebuild it so that it'll be a decent flow surface. It has 56 points along the U, along here. I want to keep it pretty much in the same position that it is, so I'm going to actually increase those points. I'll make it 65. Once again, an odd number, so I have a center line. And the 5 and 3, 3 is okay. Okay. That's my flow surface target. Now I need to create the flat one. Normally we've been doing the reverse. Normally we've been making the flat one first and then the three-dimensional one. I can get rid of these curves. Now I'll make the flat one. Flat one will be fairly easy to do. I'm going to extract an isocurve right down the middle of this. Mid-snap. Like so. And I'm going to extract another isocurve going the opposite direction. Toggle again. Also at mid. Those are the two curves I need to make the other surface. I need to know what the length of this is. It's 33.405. I'll make a curve that long. Starting from 0, 33.405. Shift key to make it straight. move it from mid to 0. And actually, so it feels more aligned with this, I'm actually, and so it's not kind of in my way, I'm going to move it off to the side. Now, normally I do everything in the middle. Okay, to prevent confusion, I'm going to keep it in the middle. It doesn't hurt anything. I'm going to keep that in the middle. I'm going to take the other curve I made right here. I'm going to analyze its length. 5 millimeters. I'm going to start here in the mid at 0, or mid snap, doesn't matter, both sides. I'm going to constrain the length 2.5 millimeters. That'll be 2.5 on each side. So I just typed in 2.5 on the command line. Shift key, pull it to the side, and click. Now, didn't even have to do that. What I could actually do is just grab this curve and offset it 2.5, both sides. That'll work just as well. Loft surface to make the surface quickly. Throw away the side curves. Throw away the middle curve. Don't need either one of those. Well, middle curve will come in handy in a minute, so I'll hang on to that. Actually, so will the others. Keep the curves. All right, I need to make sure the math of this surface matches the math of the target. So first thing I need to do is check direction. Right now, this direction, which happens to be V, is lengthwise. And here it's not, it's widthwise. So I need to analyze the direction of the surface. And I need to swap U and V. It doesn't change, you just hit enter. You don't see any change, but mathematically there is one. Widthwise, widthwise. Now I'm going to rebuild this to match. Since these are the measurements that I used before, I'll just keep them and hit OK. And I have a flow kit. Anything that I flow along here should end up nicely over there. I have 3 uniform flutes. So I'm going to go to the Transform tab. Don't know why it's here, but it is. Cascade the points. Right-click on Divide Curve by Length. Grab the edge of that surface. Enter. And I'm going to divide it by 3. That'll give me 3 points. I am going to draw my arc. So curve tools, arc, stop, and direction. Start, stop, direction. Point snap. It's important to make sure that planar is always checked on down here, guys. Because right here, if I didn't have planar checked, it would take this all the way back to the C-plane and give me a very strange arc. Not too tall. Something like that. I'll extrude straight. One side, so B enter to get rid of that, both sides. And I'll just grab end. And there's my first flute. Remember, we're going to explode extrusions as soon as we make them so that they're regular surfaces and not Rhino's block definition. Top C-plane, so I can transform and make a copy. And I want to do that with history. I want to do it again with history. Check history. History is fine. Now, on the others, I went ahead and made oversized surfaces so that I could have more flexibility. I'm not going to do that here because, if anything, I think this is too big. Transform, record history, flow along surface. Okay. That gives me a sense of how that's working. I'm getting kind of an awkward roll off of here. By the way, we need to do what we did not do the last time. We need to move these down. So I will move. Need the vertical C-plane, so front. Oh, remember, I don't want to move these. Those are children. If I move those, I'm going to break history. But I can move this curve. In fact, I can probably just move that curve. No, I should probably move both. Quad. We'll find out. If it yells at me, I should have just moved the curve. No, that's good. Let's see if we get the same kind of distortion this time around. Not as bad. There are some wobblies going on here. And they are to blame. It's the flow surface that's to blame for that. So I may need to come in and modify that, make it cleaner. But I am going to take a look and see how it's progressing. Okay, I'm not upset with how any of that's looking. I could actually make my flutes a little deeper, which might be good to do. Take a look with the ring bore and compare to our drawing. Yeah, see, I think that my that this whole section is wide. So I'm going to need to make more changes. But for now, we're going to stop. It's a good place to pause. Thanks so much for watching.